Good morning and good afternoon, dear people. Dear honorable guests and friends, thank you all for joining our special webinar today, Meet KKL. IsCham, the Israeli Chamber of Commerce in China, since its very first day in 2008, is investing all its resources and efforts to be the platform that bring together Chinese communities and business people to meet, communicate, and establish relations with Israeli business communities, startup companies, as well as well-known and established companies and technologies. IsCham's main objective is to create opportunities for cooperation between the two countries. High-tech, medical, automotive, agriculture, water, resources, all the variety that Israeli technology companies can offer into the great evolving Chinese market, which most of it is already highly developed and yet hungry for more, and vice versa, help to bridge the road for Chinese companies to enter the Israeli market. Most of the activities of the various fields I mentioned has mutual targets. Both parties are looking at the bottom line, on the profit line. And gladly, there are a lot of success stories of cooperation between both sides. Today, we would like to introduce to you something different. Today, we are introducing mainly to our Chinese friends and partners the largest, oldest, and one of the most significant non-profit organization in Israel, KKL, the Jewish National Fund. Already almost 120 years ago, since its establishment, way before the new Israel was founded, KKL dealt with aspects of land and environment, keeping and emphasizing the importance of green land, soil preservation and rehabilitation, forestry, desert fighting, use and reuse of water, accumulating treasure of knowledge to share, and investing all in these topics related. Either it's education, knowledge sharing, and or supporting projects who are related to prevent environmental damages and improve the environment in which we live. IsCham team and myself as the chairman of IsCham, we will be happy to help and build this new great opportunity. Today we have presentations from two people who are currently leading this KKL activity. Mr. Ronnie Vinikov, Head of Global Resource Development Division at KKL, and Dr. Doron Markel, who serves as the Chief Scientist of KKL, deal with all research and professional perspective of core activities of KKL. We will see and hear interesting presentation from Mr. Roy Weinberg about ICL, an Israeli giant global manufacturing of products based on unique minerals, fulfill humanity's essential needs in the markets of agriculture, food, and engineering materials. ICL operates with clear commitment for full environmental compliance and to be in the top tier of safety performance and environmental responsibility. But before we will start this exciting session, we are honored to welcome His Excellency, the Minister Ze'ev Elkin, Minister of Water Resources and Higher Education in the Israeli government, and the former Minister of Environmental Protection. During his previous position as Minister for Environmental Protection, Mr. Ze'ev Elkin visited China and emphasizes the importance of cooperation between our countries on these specific topics. I guess now we will wait that Mr. Elkin will join us. We are waiting, and I guess in about a second, it will be. Thank you all for all your patience. I guess it will take a second or two till the minister will join us.
好的，在等待这个我们以色列水利部部长加入这个活动之前呢，现在提示一下大家，如果各位还没有加入我们的 KKL 中国之友的微信群，可以在现在屏幕上方的这个加入微信群的这个下面的二维码，扫描之后呢，然后就可以加入到群里面。到时候呢，我们会发布一些跟 KKL 相关的这个活动的这个介绍和信息，以及包括就是各位如果在活动当中有任何的问题或者是技术的问题，都可以在群里面提问。好的。我们看到这个我们的这个水利部部长已经进入了。
Is he in? Hello, everyone. Good morning. I just had a brief talk with the minister assistant. He's a bit delayed in a previous meeting. He will join us, I'm assuming, in a few minutes. You are welcome to ask our team and ask questions while we're waiting. Sorry, of course, for the delay.
Ariel, maybe you can introduce yourself a bit.
Yes, so I'm Ariel Briskin. I'm the GM, the General Manager of the Israeli Chamber of Commerce in China. I've been living in China for over 8 years before the coronavirus started. As Yuval mentioned in his speech, we work hard now in these days, even harder maybe than before, because everything is much harder now due to the corona, to promote the China-Israel cooperation. And we change accordingly. So lots of our activity now is online, but we believe it's crucial and important to keep developing the cooperation and the communication between the countries. And that's why we continue to promote Israeli companies, Israeli organizations at all time, as you can see also from, and you can see on our websites and our WeChat and on our Chinese and Israeli platforms. And you are more than welcome to invite to learn more about our activity. I personally believe that this crisis will pass and that we cannot neglect the cooperation between China and Israel. I think it's a strategical cooperation we should all maintain, and only with your help of both sides of China and Israel to join, to participate, to show initiative, to communicate, and to join these events we're doing, we'll be able to continue the fire, the cooperation, even if it goes a bit lower or a bit higher, it doesn't matter. But we must continue the communication in every ways that we can. And I hope that our friends in China will also understand the importance of this communication. And I'm very glad and thankful for the people that joined today to support this event and to continue. Meanwhile, we're still waiting for the minister. It should go up now. Jing-Yi, please pay attention.
Here, I see the minister is logging in.
Okay, so I'm muting myself. So,
Mr. Elkin, Your Excellency, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a big honor for me. Can I start?
Sure, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. As I said, it's a big honor for me to be the part of this webinar of the Keren Kayemeth LeIsrael, a big friend of mine personally, and of course, a big partner of the Israeli government in many, many projects. And I think that the idea try to deep our cooperation with China in some interesting fields, that water is probably one of the leading fields in the potential, is a wonderful idea. I want to thank to KKL for their activity in this field, and I'm very happy to take part in this event. Some words, probably the minister who is responsible now on water resources of the state of Israel, why I think that it can be very important and very interesting field of cooperation. Israel for many years has a very, very interesting experience in the field of the management of water resources. Is not a big secret that we are a country that is located in the Middle East, in very problematic place in the context of the natural water resources. We don't have big rivers. Almost all of the water resources of our country in the past were dependent on rain. And of course, with many years that we had a lot of problems with our water facilities and with our water resources. By the way, is the problem and the challenge for many countries in our region. It's not only special Israel situation. And as in many other fields of activity, the state of Israel succeeded to take the problem and not only to solve the problem, but to build the power on the foundation of the solving of the problem. And the management of water resources was one of the wonderful activities in this context. It began many years ago in the Israeli activities and Israeli development of the system of water irrigation and agriculture. We were the leading country in this field of the smart water irrigation. And of course, Israeli companies for many years are very popular in international market with their experience and with their technologies. But this tradition not stopped only on this stage of the using of smart water irrigation for our agriculture. I am interested to try to speak about some big fields that probably I think Israel now is a leading country over the world. The first of them, of course, is the issue of desalination. Israel was one of the first countries over the world that developed very actively the issue of desalination plants. And a big percent of our water resources now is, of course, the result of this activity of desalination. The majority of the water that we are using in our houses and in our industry is coming from desalination, not from natural water resources. And of course, it's a big revolution. By the way, we are not stopped our activity. We are continuing to establish new desalination plants, and one of them that we are on the finishing stage of development of it will be the largest in the world. And our government only some years ago decided to double the water desal capacity, and this stage changed the situation in Israel. We were the country with a problem of water resources, with some years in big crisis in the issue of water resources, and some special governmental decision about the possibility to use water only for some needs and some goals. Now we are able to bring our water to our neighbors because we are succeeded totally establish of our needs on this basic, on this foundation of desalination. Even now we are on the last stage of the big project. The much important water reservoir, natural water reservoir for us for many years from the establishment of the country was Keren, a special water reservoir in our country. Now we are building special track to bring the water from desalination to Keren, and we changed him to be a kind of the reservoir only for extreme situation. For example, war and something like this can that we will not be able to use our desalination plants. The situation totally changed. The place that there was this source for water now became the place that we are bringing the water to it and to keep it for special extreme situation. The second issue that I think can be very interesting from our experience is the issue of the reusing of our water, and I'm speaking about sewage, now Israel is the world leader in the water reuse. More than 85%, something like 87% of our using water is reusing and treated for using in agriculture. It's something amazing. 50% of our agricultural needs for the water are coming from the treated of sewage. And then, of course, I told the Israel is the first place over the world. The second place is Spain. It's something like 20% only. Try to compare 87% to 20%. And of course, this Israeli experience and this Israeli technology is very, very important. It can be very interesting to China. It can be very interesting to many countries that they are part of the Silk Road and the neighbors of the China. I think that it's very interesting potential in cooperation in this field. The other very interesting field is, of course, the issue of water management. For example, the water loss in our national water system is the lowest in the world, something like 3%. And I think, as I said, we are in the first place of the world. Of course, the secret of this number is two things: technology and the system of the management of water resources. Something like 15 years ago, we began a big reform of our water system. Before it, our numbers were much worse. And we succeeded through a relatively short period to bring our water management on the very, very high level. And of course, we are ready to share our experience, not only our technology, but our experience in the management of organization of the all of water resources system with other countries and of course of China. I mentioned only some fields of possible cooperation between our countries in the field of the water resources, in the field of the management of water resources, in the field of the treating of sewage and so on. And I think that any kind of connection between Israeli companies, that we have big national company, Mekorot is the largest Israeli company in the field of management of water resources. And of course, there are many small startup companies with different technologies in Israel. And I think the idea of a linkage between these companies and the China companies can be very, very interesting. And of course, we as a Ministry of Water Resources, we are ready to deep our cooperation in China. I made some very important steps in deepening our cooperation in China in the field of environmental protection. In previous government, I was responsible then on the Ministry of Environmental Protection, and I'm sure that we can use same models for deepening of cooperation with China in the field of the water resources. Thank you, and a big success in this event.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elkin, for your enlightened speech, and we are really highly appreciated your opening word for this seminar.
Thank you very much. And as I told, we as a ministry are ready to continue and to support any kind of cooperation between our countries in this field.
Thank you, and we will need it. Thank you very much. And before we will continue and we will give the stage to Mr. Roni Vinnikov, I want to introduce Jingyi Dong, our member relation manager in IsCham, and the one who carry on the activity during the virus epidemic when everything was locked down, together with Iris in Shanghai and Dell that we see here. And Jingi will continue to lead this session and seminar. Jingi, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Yuval. And now let's welcome Mr. Ronnie Vinnikov, the head of the Global Resources Development Division of KKL. His speech is about KKL projects in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Ronnie, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Jingi, and thank you very much, Mr. Yuval Ben-Sadeh, Chairman of IsCham, Israel Chamber of Commerce in China. It's really a great honor and privilege for me to take part in this important webinar, first of its kind, and I would like to also acknowledge the presence of my colleagues from KKL, Dr. Doron Markel, the Chief Scientist of KKL, my team from the Global Resource Development, Mrs. Miki Sahar, Mr. Igal Yasinov, Mrs. Ingrid Balalti, Mrs. Corinne Bolton, and others. And we are pleased and really honored to take part in this important webinar. I will start with very short background words about KKL. What is KKL? KKL is an abbreviation of Keren Kayemeth LeIsrael. Those Hebrew words are translated into English as Jewish National Fund. Is a non-governmental organization with its headquarters in Jerusalem, concerned with environmental issues and sustainable development in Israel. You probably already heard, but it's very important to mention that we are operating since 1901. KKL was established over 120 years ago and is concerned one of the world's, it's considered to be one of the world's oldest organizations in the field of environmental protection. KKL, we are proud to be active in more than 55 countries throughout the world, hopefully very soon in China as well. And we work in close cooperation with many governmental and non-governmental bodies. KKL's main goal is to protect and preserve the resources of Israel's open spaces for future generations and the benefit of all residents of the State of Israel, regardless of their religion or nationality. Due to a mandate of the government of Israel and based on a special law of the Israeli parliament, KKL operates as the Forest Service and the Land Development Authority in Israel. We are committed to creating a better tomorrow through the ecological restoration of damaged landscapes, sustainable forest management, agricultural research and development, water resource management, ecotourism development, and of course, educational programs in all those fields. Throughout the years, KKL has planted more than 245 million trees over an area exceeding 230,000 acres, thereby transforming a desolate and arid land into one green and flourishing. Israel, as you might know, is the only country in the world where the number of its trees is greater today than it was 100 years ago. So it is really a big privilege for me to be today with all of you. And I will touch maybe really shortly what we do in those days in light of the crisis, which unfortunately puts its burden on all of us worldwide and especially in Israel. So how we at KKL taking our experience, our technology, our know-how in terms of environment and ecology, and trying to be relevant to cope with this crisis of COVID-19 and with pandemic. I will now share a screen with my short presentation. I hope you can see it clearly. I'm sorry, one moment. I'll do it again. Okay. So, does anybody see it right? We can proceed. Jinky?
Yes, we can see it. It's very clear.
Great. So we are really privileged to share with you some of our ideas and projects and programs which KKL, as the founding partner of the State of Israel and country's leading environmental organization for the last 120 years, what we do to try to help our people to cope with the pandemic. I also would like to say that it, for me, is it's really fascinating to see the Chinese language under the name of KKL in our logo symbol here. We are sure that the Chinese people and the Jewish people, we have so many values in common, so many really good will and action that we can share and do together for the better future of the whole world and for our peoples. So it's really, it is really exciting for all of us here to have this first of its kind webinar and to share our ideas and our thoughts, how we can help the people of Israel, people of China, and the world, the whole world, to cope with this crisis, which unfortunately occurs in those days. So out of several projects and programs that KKL is doing in those days, I would like to share with you two of them. The first one is green respite in time of COVID-19. We are actually building outdoor relaxation areas for hospitals in Israel. We really try to save lives by this activity in light of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and the danger of infection in enclosed spaces. We're planning to establish a network of specially designed green outdoor shaded seating areas in all Israeli hospitals that have coronavirus wards in those days. We have more than 30 hospitals right now in Israel with coronavirus patients. And it is a nationwide project which will serve to strengthen and support the medical teams working really hard around the clock and the COVID-19 patients isolated from home and family and whose lengths of stay in the hospitals may be protracted. So those sitting areas will provide respite for all who need them, not least medical staff under unusual pressure, and serve as pleasant green lungs for our hospital throughout the country. You can see just an example of those designed areas. Already within the next year, the hospitals will have sitting areas that include accessible KKL tables and benches and space in a distance of at least 2 meters between them, newly planted shade trees and greenery flower box planters, shading elements. All those areas, of course, will be branded and being non-governmental organization and a charitable body. Of course, we are welcoming donors to share with us the cost of creating such spaces within our hospitals, and our generous donors will receive appropriate recognition in the form of plaque attached to a table or bench. You, I don't know how if you have been to Israel ever, but you can imagine that the shade in Israel, to try to find a place where we can have shade from sun and some really relaxation area, open space, without the risk of infection. It is really a big achievement that we are trying to bring into our hospitals. It didn't exist in this form before. We never coped with this really dangerous pandemic as today. So those places will serve our patients and our medical teams, providing them really with relaxation and shade and a nice area to spend the time during this pandemic. We invite all of our partners and donors throughout the world to take part in this important project. It is an example of bringing, as you see, green environmental concept into the medical life of our people and of our state. So talking and giving an example of the project, how we try to ease the life of our patients and the life of our medical teams, and really in this way trying maybe even at some point of time to save the lives of some of our patients. The next project that I would like to draw your attention to is how to commemorate the lives of those who unfortunately gave and sacrificed their lives to save the lives of others. And this is another project to create a recognition area within one of our biggest forests in Israel to commemorate the lives of medical teams from all over the world who sacrificed their lives to save the lives of COVID-19 patients. So what KKL is doing, we found a special, really scenic lookout in in our Eshtaol forest, located very close to the capital of Israel, Jerusalem, only about 10-15 kilometers from Jerusalem, the capital of Israel and the capital city of three religions, really Holy Land. We have one of the biggest forests in Israel, Eshtaol forest. So within this forest, we're creating special scene in recognition of their dedicated work during the coronavirus crisis. We plan to upgrade and renew the Europe Scenic Lookout. This is the name of this place in those days. And to create a special Plant a Tree Center as a scenic and educational space where visitors can plant trees in memory of the medical teams sacrificed their lives during the coronavirus pandemic. The Tree Planting Center offers visitors a unique opportunity to plant a tree with their hands in the forest and act threatening their connection to Israel, to nature, and to our Holy Land. These new dedication walls will be established to show acknowledgement and display commemorative plaques honoring donors, honoring our partners, and honoring the most important doctors, nurses, and medical teams. And in the middle of the forest, there will be a special statue honoring the medical teams that fought against the coronavirus. Contributors to site's new development will be given a separate commemorative plaque at a central location on the site. So now you can see an example of this lookout scene. We are preparing it before creating this really one of its kind and first of its kind ever in Israel, a special commemorative place using planting tree ceremony as an act of solidarity with medical teams throughout the world. And of course, we invite our friends and partners from China to remember the doctors and the medical teams from China who sacrificed their lives during the coronavirus pandemic here in the Holy Land of Israel, close to Jerusalem. And when the skies are open, you will be able to come to visit. You can touch the ground, you can plant the tree by your own hands, and in this act of solidarity to remember the heroic actions of our medical teams from all over the world. Those were just two examples of several programs and projects which KKL is planning to implement in the upcoming months and years. And in the end of my short presentation, I would like also to thank you for your attention, for your time, taking part in this important webinar. Again, it was a great honor and privilege for me to participate in it. And I hope that I wish to all of you, first of all, greater health and success in bringing our countries and our peoples closer to one to another. And hopefully we will have the privilege to host you in Israel very soon. Thank you again and good luck to all of us.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. You can stop sharing your screen now. Okay, next, let's welcome Dr. Doron Marco, the Chief Scientist from KKL. Dr. Marco, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm Doron Marco. I'm the Chief Scientist of KKL, Keren Kayemeth LeIsrael. Previously, I've worked for many years for the water system of Israel, which our Water Resources Minister, Zev Elkin, described quite well, I must say. And I will give you a short presentation about the professional actions of KKL. Let me share the screen. Okay, let's see. Let's see if it works. I will start. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great, great. So I will start with a short video, a 5 minutes video describing the different actions of Keren Kayemeth LeIsrael. And later on, I will describe these professional actions in detail. So enjoy the video.
For over 115 years, Keren Kayemeth LeIsrael, Jewish National Fund, has been greening Israel by preserving open spaces, caring for forests and recreation sites, developing water sources, and educating people about protecting the environment. KKL JNF is responsible for about 400,000 acres of forest and natural woodland in Israel and has planted over 240 million trees to date. As the Forestry Service of Israel, KKL JNF works closely with the Israeli government to manage and maintain the many planted and natural forests countrywide. In an effort to mitigate the effects of climate change, KKL JNF plants trees and maintains a proactive policy of reforestation. Planted forests and lemons in the Negev desert region prevent soil erosion and desertification. Forests affect Israel's environment in many ways. They help stop desertification, influence climate change favorably, create green lungs around residential areas, and promote biodiversity. JNF creates and maintains sustainable parks and open spaces for the benefit of all residents of Israel. The biospheric parks balance the needs of development and preservation, enabling people to live in harmony with their their surrounding environment. Initiatives such as green leadership classrooms and outdoor educational programs are part of KKL JNF's environmental education for children and youth. Israeli society includes a great variety of ethnicities and nationalities. KKL JNF encourages all Israeli citizens to live in harmony by creating shared public spaces and community education programs. Forests are major centers of ecotourism and recreation in Israel. KKL JNF forests are open to the public free of charge and include numerous hiking, walking, and cycling trails. KKL JNF invests in making its sites accessible for the physically challenged, bringing nature closer to everyone. KKL JNF understands the need for a holistic approach to the environment and promotes practical research in the fields of forestry and agriculture. To support agriculture, KKL JNF has also taken on the mission to create new water sources from recycled flood runoff and effluents. To date, KKL JNF has constructed over 230 water reservoirs and dams, which supply over 70% of the water used in Israel for agriculture. KKL JNF invests in developing innovative water technologies, such as the biofilter, constructed wetlands, and drilling projects. KKL JNF shares its practical knowledge and experience with countries around the world through conferences and collaborative projects. In addition, foresters from around the world come to Israel to learn about KKL JNF's techniques in afforestation and combating desertification, which today is a worldwide threat. The need for food security and renewable energy is an urgent global concern. KKL JNF assists developing countries in gaining food security for their people by sharing its knowledge in desert agriculture. KKL JNF activities are made possible with the support of its 900,000 friends and 45 offices around the world. KKL JNF's many supporters and partners worldwide serve as living proof that when we all work together, we can make the world a better place, taking care of our earth, water, trees, and people.
So you could see that KKL is walking on the path between preserving the nature and bring the people within the parks and the nature. We call it sustainability. That's the meaning of sustainability, to compose between these two goals. Regarding forestry and environment, as said before, forestation and managing open areas is our main activity. And as Ronnie said before, KKL has planted over 250 million trees since the 1960s. And the trees serve a very important role in the climate change issue, which I'll explain later. Combating desertification in Israel, southern desert, by savanization and prevention of soil erosion, you must understand that 2/3 of Israel area is an arid and semi-arid area with less than 250 millimeters precipitation annually. Therefore, in order to prevent the desertification, which accelerates due to the climate change, the forestry and planting trees serve a very important role. We manage over 160,000 acres of forest and open areas. That means not only to preserve the forest, but also to invite the people, the public, to come in the forest to drive bicycles and walk in the forest and do all kind of activities. And during the last decade or so, we have developed attractive birding sites, bird watching sites, connecting people to the nature. Our most famous one is the Agmona Chula, which is a very important wetland, which was reflooded back in the 1990s and now serve as a very important bird site. You should remember or know that Israel sits on the one of the most important migration trails of birds from Europe to Africa. So the birds pass through Israel. 500 million actually birds pass through Israel every spring and autumn, and that's why our bird watching sites are so important. Dealing with the climate change. Me personally, I lead the dealing with climate change in KKL, and as I said, I come from the water system, and the climate change in Israel and the Middle East means mainly hottest summer and drier winters. Okay, in Middle East weather, we have a dry summer, which is going to be drier and hotter, and a rainy winter, which is going to be drier. It means we're going to have less available water. So mitigating the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere by preserving the forest, the main tool for carbon sequestration and fixation, we do that because we know and understand that the main reason for the climate crisis is the increase of greenhouse gases, mainly carbon dioxide, CO2, in the atmosphere. And that has to do, of course, with the burning of fossil fuels in factories and vehicles. But the fact is that the actual concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere increased dramatically during the last 20 years or so. And the main tool in Israel, the only tool we have to fix the CO2 is the trees and the forest. Therefore, we have to preserve our forests. We also mitigate the carbon emission by planning renewable energy strategies and supporting R&D of solar energy storage. Now, in Israel, the main renewable energy is solar energy. We don't have a lot of wind or hydropower. Our main renewable energy is solar energy. And the problem with solar energy is storaging, because you have the solar energy mainly during the daytime, during the noontime. You don't have any energy during the night, and you don't have any solar energy during a cloudy winter days. Therefore, storaging renewable energy is the key for having full renewable energy places like we plan. And our plan is to, by 2030, to have parts of Israel to be neutralized in using fossil fuel energy. And also, speaking about adaptation for the future climate, we work for enriching our forest by biodiversity, including finding robust ecotypes of trees for to adapt to the future climate. Also, preventing the forest fires by preparing the forest to drier and hotter climate. You must remember that one of the main problems of climate change, of hotter summer and drier winter, is the wild forest fires. So we have to prevent these forest fires and be ready and adapt our forest for the possibility of future forest fires. And water, we came to water management. So KKL has constructed over 230 reservoirs, water reservoirs in Israel. That's a fantastic number. You see in the picture one of our water reservoirs. There are two main types of water reservoirs. One is the reservoir you build within the stream or next to the stream to catch the flood during the winter, to preserve the water during the winter and use it for irrigation, for agricultural irrigation during the summer. The second type is the reservoir which collects the treated sewage coming from the sewage treatment plants. The minister already said that Israel leads the world in utilizing its potable water, reuse it, treat it in sewage treatment plant. 87% of our potable water is reused, collected in these reservoirs built by KKL, and then used by farmers for irrigating their fields. Another thing we do is dealing with the runoff management, stormwater during winter, of course, because as I said, we have rain only during winter. So stormwater relief and floodwater harvesting in settling ponds enriching the aquifer. By doing that, you prevent the floods downstream, but you also enrich the aquifer by in filtering the water into the aquifer where the water stays within the ground. But we also deal with urban runoff. We have installed urban biofilter systems promoting water-sensitive cities. And finally, and lately, we work for rehabilitating of aquatic environments like winter ponds, springs, and streams. For the last year, we have monitored and rehabilitate our winter ponds, which are a very important environment in the meaning of ecological biodiversity. And the picture here is one of our winter pond. Research and academic. As a chief scientist, I'm responsible for the research and the academic connections of the organization. We support research in the field of forestry, of course. This is our main subject. Agriculture, land use, biodiversity, as I said, water management, as I said, climate change, of course. That's my personal favorite. Streams rehabilitation, and also heritage and history of Israel. And we also promoting the work of the Periphery R&D stations for ecologically sustainable agriculture. These R&D stations are agricultural R&D stations and we support them and help them to bring innovating ideas in order to improve our agriculture, which is well known, improved, but to improve it even more. And also cooperating with the academic institutes in Israel and abroad, using the KKL, also using the KKL scholarships as a supporting tool for students in the periphery. That's what I've done last year, distributed more than 100 scholarships for students in the periphery, the north and south periphery of Israel. We have also an education division in the KKL, and they lead our 5 field centers. So directing our field and forest education centers as a tool for mainly for school pupils and educating for the spirit of KKL, which means loving nature, living with nature, and sustainability. We also constructed KKL houses for excellence for pupils in the 10th, 11th, and 12th class. In the northern and southern periphery, we have one, or at least two that work already, one in the northern Galilee, one in the southern, in the Negev in the south, and we plan to add 8 more houses like this, where pupils come after study, after school, and study mathematics, English, computer science, and physics, and get ready for the technology world. And we also established KKL visitors and learning centers, where people can visit and learn about preserving the forest and the environment. We have just opened last year the visitor center, a fantastic one in our wetland Chula, Agmona Chula, which explain all the story of the wetland and the rehabilitation of this important wetland. So by that, I concluded my presentation, and I'm ready for answering questions if there are. Shall I stop the share?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
And now we are coming to the Q&A session. I've seen 2 people raised their hands, and let's see the first one. CYAN Wang. Now you can speak.
Thank you, Jingyi. And thank you, Dr. Doran. Many thanks for your informative introduction given by His Excellency, Mr. Ziv Elkin, Roni Vinikov, and Dr. Doran. This is Science from China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation, CBCGDF. And I was really impressed by the great work on water resources management and environmental conservation, as well as your efforts for combating pandemic made by Israel and KKL. Due to the time limits, please allow me to give you a very, very brief overview on what CBCGDF is doing for safeguarding the integrity of nature and ecosystem. CBCGDF was originated from Miru Deer reintroduction in 1985, and the past decades have witnessed the foundation to become a very active social organization as well as an academic society in environmental protection and sustainable development. Recently, we have launched the LOPNOR Scientific Survey and Monitoring Project this month. This project will last to 10 years with its focus on better understanding and fully acquiring the local condition of biodiversity, as well as the hydrological ecology. So by carrying out such project on the evolution of ecological environment, we aim to clarify the interaction between human activities and ecosystem for developing future proposals concerning adaptation strategies and under the climate change, as well as improve the livelihood for local people. And my question goes to Dr. Doran. Considering CBCGDF and KKL shared common vision and mission, and we have so many overlaps topics and working focuses on desertification, prevention, research, education, and sustainability. So we are wondering, is there any possibility for us to have potential of cooperation in the future? Thank you very much.
We and I personally will be very happy to collaborate with any expert or body in China regarding all of the issues that I've presented. We have experts in the different subjects, and me personally, I deal mainly with water and climate change. But for forestry, we have very good experts, some of them the best in Israel, in forestry and especially arid and semi-arid land forestry. So yeah, we are ready to collaborate, just raise an issue, and we will keep the connection. Hopefully, you know, the skies will open one day. We will be able to travel. You'll be able to come over here and see the processes and the things we do by your eyes. So yeah, we are ready for cooperating and collaborating. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Doran. And okay, I will send our contacts to Ms. Jing Yi to have further connect.
I don't hear the question yet.
Hello, Dr. Doran. Can you hear? Hello, Dr. Doran, can you hear?
Yes, I don't hear the question. What was the question?
Okay, great. So this is Sophia representing Trella Forestry Tech, a forestry company from New York. And our question is basically, KKL, is KKL operating in Israel only, or together with the National Foundation of Israel? KKL is interested on cooperating on some other projects, for example, in China?
I'm not sure I got the question clearly, but if the question was whether we operate only in Israel,
yes.
The answer is, well, actions we do mainly in Israel, but we can provide our our professionality, our knowledge abroad. And we do that, for example, and you've seen that in the video, what we do in Kenya, Africa, Turkana, where we exported our knowledge regarding soil conservation, agricultural treatment, and water management. So the answer is that we can export our knowledge, and we do that. So yeah, we can initiate a connection and export any knowledge that we have and ready to distribute.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for a very clear answer on that. And another quick question is we actually have a STEM scientific program, education program with government in China and the public schools and any student, K-12 students in China. We're looking for the environment STEM, which we really want to have the environment e-STEM as part of the program. And we're looking for content provider from Israel. Is KKL get any resources on that?
Yes. Okay, you have to remember that we have the education ministry, like the water ministry, etc., which is responsible for the education and the school and the learning program. However, we do have environmental education programs run mainly in our field stations, where pupils from elementary school and high school come and learn and participate in the activity, which is based on environmental and sustainability issues. So we, for summarizing, we give sustainable and environment education, but not in the schools, but in our field stations.
Okay, thank you. Not to occupy too much time, so I will follow up with Jingyi further on this. This is a super exciting area. We may cooperate with KKL. Thank you so much for your answers.
Okay, thank you. I don't hear the question.
Hello, Dr. Doran, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
I'm the CSO from Irrigator Water Company. We are based in China, and we mainly provide and trade drinking water purifying equipment and other water management equipment. And our business include both exporting and importing. And we are sure that we may have a lot to import from Israel, but I also want to ask if Israel is in need of any water equipment that we can export to your country. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question.
Yeah.
As I said, I've worked for many years for the water sector in Israel, for the Water Authority, which is a governmental authority. However, for the last 2 years, I serve as the chief scientist of KKL. So I cannot answer this question directly, but I would guess that Israeli farmers usually prefer to use Israeli equipment for irrigation, considering that Israel manufactures and also export. I don't know if the best, but but partly the best irrigation equipment in the world. So I'm not sure about farmers, Israeli farmers, to buy and import Chinese equipment, but really I'm not the right person to answer this question. But I think we can collaborate regarding water management
Yes.
with Chinese companies and learn from each other. So yeah, it's an invitation for collaborating.
Yes, we can maintain further communication with your organization. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and by the way, I see there is another KKL colleague, Karen. She wants to add something regarding the questions. Now, Karen, you can speak.
Thank you. Hi. Good evening or good afternoon to everyone. My name is Keren Bolton. I'm the Director of International Relations at Keren Kayemeth. And thank you, Doron, for your great presentation. I just wanted to add that regarding to all the various questions, we definitely do have activities abroad. We try to model and create different activities and projects according to the needs and what we can offer, and then change it and model it to the needs of the country. Whether that be in environmental education, whether that be in afforestation, water, and all the various areas. We're very happy to cooperate and see where we have issues in common, and whether that be that actually something comes out in an actual program or project, or whether that comes out in just sharing resources and being able to be a really solid international network. So I encourage anyone who does have further questions or would like to be in contact with us to please do, and we will be very happy to see where we can join our resources together. Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you, Karen. And our last question goes to IsCham Xiao. Now, IsCham, you can speak.
Hello, nice to know you, Boketov, by the way. And I have a question. I heard a very good speech, but I think it's mainly about the environmental ecosystem and also the agriculture. But my, how to say, interest is in the industrial wastewater treatment. Do you have like a very good solution? Actually, I want the best solution, and also proved that to be functional. You know, China has some, you know, very special industry like coking, like other steel making. We also use old way, not like Germany. So all these things, do you have any analysis and you have any solution to for such kind of industrial wastewater? And also, I'm also very interested in the water loss control in the even in the drinking water system, which the minister expressed just now. So these 2 points I think are very interested, but I'm sorry that maybe my question is not related with your speech today. But you know, in China, the polluted water regulation is strengthened year by year. Okay, for example, the nitrogen data parameter is controlled from this year. It's very strict to put into the lake river, and also the zero emission is our target for the 2025. So we need some really very good solution for industrial wastewater. Thank you.
Okay, so regarding treating the effluent in treatment plants, and I have a lot of experience. Also, since I've worked for many years in Lake Kinneret, Sea of Galilee, our one and only lake, I've met delegations from China speaking about lakes water inflow into lakes and the water quality. I think nitrogen is less important. Phosphorus is more important in order to preserve your water quality in the lakes and to prevent cyanobacteria blooms. And we can elaborate a lot more later on regarding that. But in general, the main idea is to take the sewage and to treat it in a biological sewage treatment plant, and then preserve it in reservoir. The preservation of the water in the reservoir gives the time. It sits in the reservoir for half a year, and the water quality improves all the time. Finally, you use disinfection process, chlorination, for example, for the final treatment, and then you can irrigate almost everything with this water. Another thing is to dump this treated sewage down to the streams. That's what they do in the Western world, by the way. In the most of the Western world, what they do, they treat the sewage, and then they dump the treated sewage downstream to the rivers and lakes and harm the lakes by enhancing the cyanobacteria blooms. What we do is collecting this treated sewage and reuse it for agriculture. On one hand, we increase the water availability for farmers. And second, we prevent the pollution from our streams and lake. So that's, I think, what you should do also, but we can elaborate a lot about it later on. Regarding the water loss in Israel is really the lowest in the world. That has to do with a very sophisticated conveying system. The piping and conveying system is the advanced in the world. And there are also sensors to sense leaks and preventing leaks. And that's why our water loss is the lowest in the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, David. And seems like we have so many people asking questions. I will give one more audience to speak. Miss Zhao Li, now you can speak. This is the last one, by the way.
Oh, okay. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Xingyi. Thank you, and it's really a great pleasure to learn more about KKL today. And my question, by the way, I'm working for Meitar Law Firm, which is one of the largest Israeli law firm, but I base in China, in Beijing, and we do have a lot of potential or existing Chinese clients who are very interested in cooperate with Israeli companies, especially focusing on environmental protection, because it is a very hot issue nowadays. And based on today's presentation, I learned a lot about KKL. I know your ability to change the world, but I really want to understand about what exactly are you looking from China? Are you looking for to bring your technology to China? Are you looking for projects or funds or maybe strategic partners? What exactly are you looking for? And also, will you please give us like some example about your formal international cooperation with other countries? I would like to learn more about your international cooperation module before. Thank you.
Thank you. So maybe Yuval or Ariel should answer this question, but I think my answer is that we really want to collaborate for enhancing our knowledge and helping, if we can, your knowledge. I think we want to also to initiate commercial connections, but this is more the KKL part, because as we said, we are a non-profit organization. So maybe Yuval and Ariel would answer more, will elaborate more.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the
I just want to
Q&A.
add, please.
Okay.
I just want to add, please, one word about this. As Doron said, KKL is a non-profit organization, and its main strength it's about the knowledge that its treasure about environmental management and water resources, reuses, forestry. And the idea of cooperating with China is China has huge areas that it can be cooperated, that the knowledge can be shared. So both China can benefit from this, and also KKL can benefit from learn a little bit sometimes more complex problems and improving together the treasure of knowledge. Generally, KKL is not doing commercial projects, and it's more about education, consulting, mutual project which local or federal governments are involved about them in order to improve the environment. So if somebody thinking about economical or business relation with KKL, it's not exactly the address. KKL is non-profit organization. He's not doing business. They are doing lectures, seminars, what calls in China after-hour classes, schools, in different ways, cooperating with companies that need consultancy, mainly government and authorities bodies that needs this knowledge, and both can learn from each other. This is the main. This is what KKL actually is looking in China.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all the questions, and thank you, Dr. Marco's answer. Now let's move to our next speaker, Mr. Roy Wedberg from ICL Group. Roy, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Jingyin. And thanks for everybody for the very important, interesting lecture and knowledge from both KKL and the representatives from China. I want to give a little bit of a business perspective. I work from ICL, one of the largest companies in Israel that also has a very large connection to China. I want to share my screen and show you a few slides, not too much. 1 second, please. I'm hoping you see them right now. Okay, Jingyi, if you, for some reason my screen is not showing, please alert me. So basically, as I mentioned before, I'm working at ICL. It's one of the largest companies basically in Israel. We have 42 production sites around the world, located in 13 different countries, with actually, besides Israel, China is actually our biggest place of operation. We have 11,000 employees, 2,000 of them are actually in China. We have 42 production sites, 8 of them are in China. The biggest one is a joint venture with a 50-50 joint venture with a Chinese company called YPH in the Yunnan, near Kunming, that I assume most of you know. Basically, it is a very big phosphate mining and phosphate fertilizer production company. We also have other smaller sites across China, mostly on the eastern coast, producing flame retardants, producing food additives, producing phosphate specialties. Each one of them does something a little special. So we are a company that's very diverse in its products, and everything we produce a lot of fertilizers, both commodity fertilizers like potash or phosphate fertilizers, and also more advanced, sophisticated fertilizers. We produce industrial products like flame retardants, fumigation products for oil drilling, a lot of different products like that. Much products around in the food market, including even sustainable new solutions for meat alternatives. We're investing in alternative proteins. We have some products that are designed for renewable energy storage that we are promoting more and more. Some products for healthier choices for personal hygiene, like deodorants or baby powders. So we are trying to, our basis was, let's say the company started back then from commodity fertilizers and maybe more basic flame retardants, and we are moving more and more towards sustainable solutions because this is the business that the world is going through these days. Now, when you talk about sustainability, or we call it also ESG, environment, social governance, then there are many different topics that are included in this. We can't go through all of them in 10 minutes, of course, but first of all, I want to say it's not just environmental aspects for us. It's, the main environmental aspects, including major global concerns like climate change or circular economy, and generally reducing our environmental impact, but also sustainable products, as I mentioned, product stewardship, making sure that our products are used in a safe way and in a knowledgeable way by our customers, maintaining health and safety, of course, for all our employees and visitors to our sites and contractors, fair and diverse employment, responsible procurement, ethics, governance, even community engagement. All of that for us is sustainability or ESG. I know that this webinar is very much focused on on the environment, so we're going to give you a little glimpse of that. Why are we doing this as a business company? I assume some of the people on the call from business companies, I mean, it relates a lot to what KKL also said, but we really feel we work with so many different customers and investors around the world, and the pressure from them is ever increasing to prove that we as a company are a good citizen of the world, that we as a company are doing good and have responsible practices in all of the fields that I mentioned above. We are overcrowded all the time with requests from customers and investors. The regulators in the countries where we operate also, of course, care about these topics, especially in countries like Israel and also Spain, China too. NGOs that are in contact with us, even sometimes KKL sometimes on some aspects, and the communities where we operate. They all care about these topics, and we are trying to prove that we are a good and responsible company. And that is our main goal, and that we actually have the practices to prove that. And I think that we've made a very big journey, and we actually have those. As part of trying to be, all these sides, all these stakeholders, just to show not just that they are, aware of environmental impact, but that they are very progressive in that they, have progressive aspects, and they will minimize impact going forward, especially in global concerns like climate change and circular economy. So we have a sustainability vision for 2030, and it includes many different aspects, social aspects as well. But I want to focus on three issues out of that aspect. Greenhouse gas emissions, where we have decided that from 2018 and up until 2030, we will reduce 3% of our global emissions compared to the previous year by 2030. That we will, in the same time, and the two are very correlated, of course, increase our renewable energy usage by 20% each year compared to the previous year. And that, of course, goes together with reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. And that we will engage in circular economy initiatives, and will increase the reusage of our main waste streams that we are using by 30% each year compared to the previous year. We are already started those aspects a long time ago. So the main things that have been done so far is that back when we started in our voyage towards sustainability back in 2008, so pretty much almost all of the fuel consumption that we use globally was based on heavy fuels, mostly fuel oil and diesel. And by now, now 10 years after that, 12 years after that, in 2020, almost all the fuels that we are using today are natural gas. Over 90% of the fuels that we are using globally today comes from natural gas. And that was a very important first step, even though natural gas is not a renewable energy source, of course, it is much less pollutant than the previous fuels, both, of course, in greenhouse gas emissions, which really help reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, but also in other main air emissions, such as nitrous oxides, sulfur oxides, and particulate matter. We have also integrated a lot of other specific technologies to reduce from specific processes different emissions, including greenhouse gas emissions. We had a production process that, for instance, that used to use a gas called SF6, which was not, there was no regulation, there was no issue with it, no health concern, but it is a very significant greenhouse gas. So when the awareness started to do that 12 years ago, we switched with that. We completely took that off the table and converted it with a different gas, which has a much less potent on climate. We have also engaging in very significant energy efficiency measures in all of our global major sites, including the YPH site in Yunnan that I've mentioned before. And basically we are doing a lot of process optimization using residual heat, using new technologies that will allow us for cogeneration and doing all of that. And in the last 2 years, we have also started to integrate renewable energy. Now, it should be said here that I think there is the amazing progress in renewable energy across the world in the last 5 years. I think that the Chinese counterparts here are, of course, aware of that. That China had such an amazing role in this, because the fact that China managed with its to produce efficient wind energy sources and solar energy sources in a much lower cost than it used to be in the past, it managed to make renewable energy affordable and visible and viable to many different companies and cities around the world. So I think really the world owes a great debt to the Chinese market and government in that aspect of allowing that. And we have been integrating that. We have transitioned all of our ICL Europe sites to 100% renewable electricity sources. We are choosing to use 100% electricity, renewable electricity from external suppliers. And we are currently in pilot modes in examining where to locate in photovoltaic technology within our sites in several areas around the world, including examining the option in our major Chinese site, YPH. So we are trying to implement as much renewable energy as we can around the world, because we know that is the future and that real way to reduce greenhouse gases. One more thing about circular economy is that this is also a very big environmental concern to us and something, a megatrend. I think that from our perspective, the two megatrends in environment are climate change and circular economy. Circular economy, for those who don't know, means to use as less raw materials as possible and reuse as much waste as possible. So we are doing both. Some of our sites, for instance, we have pilot projects right now in Amsterdam to use phosphate waste that coming from sludge waste and from bone ash waste. We are using that as an alternative for phosphate rocks to produce phosphate-based fertilizers. We have a pilot to take called the PS loop, polystyrene loop, where we are taking old insulation waste that is out of the cycle, building insulation waste that has old flame retardants that are considered hazardous waste. We are making connections with many different parties that they will send that waste to our site in the Netherlands, also Terneuzen, and the waste gets treated there in a very safe way, and the bromine gets retrieved out of the material, and we are producing new generation of safer, much safer to use flame retardants using the same material. We also have very big endeavors to, we have mining sites in China, in Israel, in Spain, UK, and we are a lot of those sites have significant waste streams or byproduct streams, and we are trying to make connections with different business partners on who can use those significant waste streams as raw materials for their production. Sometimes we sell it, sometimes we just find collaborations where the customers take it in a minimal cost, depends on the material. But the idea is to close that loop. That's something that is just a waste for us and we cannot use it. There is a customer somewhere else that can use it. And sometimes even that customer doesn't even know that he could use it. And we're trying to make those connections and find parties that might want to use our waste streams and trying to get them, hey, maybe we can work together and minimize our effect both for us on both parties and promote circular economy. I'm close to finishing. Our endeavors have really gave us, in the last few years, we have been getting a lot of recognition for the endeavors that we are making to promote sustainability, both in the environmental aspects and in many other aspects as well. You can see some of those achievements here. We have very high scores in many different sustainability and ESG rankings that we're very proud of. In several of those, like say Bloomberg ESG, for instance, we are the Israeli company with the best score, most recommended for responsible investment out of all Israeli companies. And the same goes for all the global fertilizer sector. We have the best current score in the global fertilizer sector. And we have similar statuses, very high positions in these different rankings as well. If you are interested, I assume that materials will be sent from this meeting. So first of all, feel free. We have a very highly elaborated and innovative corporate responsibility web report. It's a web report, it's a website. You can go in and find very granular data on many different aspects, including environmental aspects, including specific pages for circular economy initiatives that I mentioned. You have a specific page on each one of them if you are interested. You have a page, of course, on climate change and different and renewable energy. So all of that can be found in our web report. And this is my email. If you have any idea on how we might be able to advance these kind of initiatives together.
Okay, thank you, Roy. And you can stop sharing your screen. Okay. If you have any questions or the audiences, you can approach me or other IsCham team members to get connection with Mr. Roy. So now let's welcome our last speaker, Ms. Chen Daci from IsCham. Oops. 1 second. Hi, Ms. Chen.
Yeah, could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You can start now.
Wait a moment.
Ms. Chen, maybe you can start from introduce a bit about yourself and IsCham.
好的，请帮我放一下我们的分享的 PPT， 因为我这边的共享有一些问题。
Okay.
好，尊敬的各位来宾，大家好。我是来自 IsCham 的陈大慈。然后我们的首席代表伊文，因为今天参加了一个以色列就是在陆家嘴的开幕仪式，然后他今天没有办法过来分享，然后就由我来代表他与大家分享一下我们的公司 IsCham。 因为今天我们研讨会主要是面向中国的朋友，让中国的朋友能够更加了解我们的 KKL， 还有一些以色列的公司，所以我们今天的分享我主要以中文来进行。首先，我来介绍一下我们的公司 WaterGen。2019年11月，可能是很多中国朋友第一次认识到 WaterGen 这一家公司，因为我们参加了第2届中国国际进口博览会。这个 PPT 我会请下一页的时候，请帮忙翻一下下一页。我们参加了第2届中国国际进口博览会，在进博会上，我们收获了超过300家企业的潜在客户和代理商的联系，并且获得了中央电视台、东方卫视、人民网、中国广播电台和上海电视台等一系列媒体的报道。在第2届进博会开始后不久，我们的 WaterGen 就决定将中国公司的总部落地在上海，并且启动了在长三角地区投资建厂的工作。时至今日，我们已经报名并且将要参加第3届进博会了，并且我们的公司总部已经在上海建成，而我们的工厂也已经在浙江落地。接下来就由我来向大家一一介绍我们 WaterGen 的产品以及未来的规划。然后首先第1页 PPT 上有我们首席代表伊万的联系方式，如果大家有任何的兴趣，都欢迎添加他的微信，并且拨打电话与他进行联系。好，请下一页。请下 PPT 下一页。好，谢谢。我们 WaterGen 的产品建立在一个全球淡水资源匮乏的背景下，因为我们的 WaterGen 的产品的核心功能是让空气变成水，所以在很多淡水资源匮乏的地方是非常非常的重要的。像在中国，我们的西北、华北等地区都是对我们这一个 WaterGen 的产品非常非常的需要，以及我们公司的产品包括在美国、印度、巴西、印度尼西亚以及澳大利亚等等，都遍布着我们的客户和合作伙伴。好，请下一页。首先来介绍一下我们的公司 WaterGen 成立于2009年，我们通过我们自己开创性的技术，把干净安全的饮用水从空气中带到了世界各地。通过我们刚才对合作伙伴的介绍，我们可以发现我们的合作伙伴的网络特别的大，并且我们的母公司 BIE 公司同时投资了数十家就是类似于 WaterGen 一样的科技公司。WaterGen 是其中一个最具有创新力的，也最具有影响力的一个公司之一。我们获得了2019年度的重大发明创新奖，并且也获得了2020年度的重大全球家电创新类企业奖。然后我们的技术也是非常独特的，请下一页。WaterGen 采用的是最新的热量交换技术，我们内容含了非常多的专利组合，通过有突破性的交换系统，可以采取把常规的空调类这种除湿产品的技术，这种冷凝技术变成了我们的饮用水的这种技术。尖端的技术可以保证我们的热量交换系统以全球最高效率运行，能够最高效的生成饮用水，并且具备当今世界最为节能的成本与体积比。而且我们的设备只要插电就可以使用，不需要依靠和辅助其他的任何设备，在全球的任何地方都可以进行方便的安装，能够吸收周围的大气的水分，就能产生高质量的饮用水。大家可以看一下我们 PPT 上面的这一个图片。首先，我们是从当地的湿润空气之中萃取冷凝出我们的水，然后水可以通过我们的过滤、净化以及矿化的功能，就是我们会对我们的纯净水之中添加矿物质和微量元素，这样最后生成的饮用水其实是含有矿物质的矿泉水，就同时保证了它的新鲜，也保证了它拥有丰富的营养元素，并且我们的技术优势已经是非常的高了，已经得到了非常多的国际认证。我们的在中国的饮用水的认证也是已经完成了，接下来我们的产品会在中国进行销售。好，请下一页。 我们的产品优势主要有如上几点，并且我们的应用市场也是非常的广泛。WaterGen 的产品被创新的广泛应用在各种市政建设、商业中心、学校、医院、办公楼、住宅区、银行、景区、公园等公共场所，为全世界各地的人们提供了节能环保、高效先进的高品质饮水方案。值得一提的是，在中国，我们的主要市场其实是在偏远地区、农村地区、饮用水质量较低的地区或者缺水的地区 ，WaterGen 的产品就可以大展身手。比如说，我们在中国有一些西北的地区以及华北的地区，他们因为气候的原因，以及因为我们的这种水的调度的原因，往往会难以拥有丰富充沛的可以供居民日常生活使用的饮用水。而我们的 WaterGen 的产品，只要一台中型机器，便可以满足一家学校、一家医院或者一家办公楼的日常的饮水。好，请下一页。首先，这是我们的第一项产品，这一个产品叫做 WaterGen Gen L， 这是一个工业级的智能饮水站。在这个工业级的智能饮水站中，我们可以发现它是一个工厂量级的智能饮水站，它可以满足每天3000到5000人的日常饮用水，并且这一台最大型的 WaterGen 的 Gen L 的工业级智能饮水站已经被应用在我们中国的一些大型的办公楼的顶层，它通过水循环可以供应到大型的办公楼的每一个各个楼层之中，都可以为各个楼层的居民和用户提供新鲜的饮用水。好，请下一页。第二项产品，我们的 WaterGen 的 Gen M。Gen M 是我们的中型的空气制水机 ，Gen M 可以提供大约500到800人一天的纯净的饮用水。Gen M 的应用场景其实比 Gen L 更为广泛。Gen M 可以应用在学校、医院、公共场所、社区、公园等这种环境之中。Gen M 也是我们在中国市场中主打推出的产品。目前我们已经跟上海的许多的地铁站、公园等等谈成了合作。Gen M 未来也是会可能家喻户晓的这样一款产品。好，请下一页。第三款产品是我们的 Jenny。Jenny 其实是一台家用的空气制水机，它就是满足一家人的日常生活饮用水。这也是我们即将要在中国市场推出的比较好的一款产品。我们正在与更多的客户一起去探讨更多更创新的可持续的应用解决方案，如我们的 Jenny 是如何进入到中国的每家每户的。我们会采取Jenny 这款产品，我们会采取通过代理商供货的形式。因此，今天的各个观众，如果有对我们的 Jenny 产品的代理有感兴趣的，可以会后进行对我或者对我们的Evan进行联系。这样子的话，我们就可以找到更加合适的代理商，去进行我们 Jenny 产品在中国每家每户的代理。好，请下一页。好，我们现在还有2款产品，目前是还没有进入中国的。这个是提供紧急状况发生后应急全面高机动的饮用水解决方案。WaterGen 有以下2款产品，一款是供水紧急救援车 Gen M Ever， 然后一款是车载用水设备 Gen M Onboard。然后这2款产品，还有我们下一页的有一个移动用水平台。这3款产品其实都是十分适用于紧急救援的，因此在一些没有特别好基础设施建设的地方，比如说岛屿、海上石油钻井平台、采矿场、造船厂、军事区、难民营、展览中心、节日庆典场所等等地方，我们 WaterGen 这3款产品同时可以发挥非常重要的作用。请下一页。 好，这一款产品就是我刚才提到的我们的移用水移动平台。然后这以上3款产品，目前我们的 WaterGen 是在美国、巴西以及非洲等地方使用，还没有进入到中国市场。如果对以上3款产品感兴趣的朋友们，也可以对我们进行联系，我们可以去开发和去探讨如何让他们更好的进行我们中国智能城市的建设。最后是我们 WaterGen 的一些愿景，就是我们的 WaterGen 最开始发明这一个空气制水机，并且想要推广这一个空气制水机，其实建立在一个人道主义救灾，以及建立在一个让全世界的人民都能够更好的喝到更多的、更新鲜的矿泉水的这样一个理念的基础上。所以如果有更多的朋友们对我们的愿景或者对我们的产品感兴趣的，都欢迎与我们进一步的联系。我们非常热忱的希望有更多的朋友能够一起加入到我们这个事业中来。谢谢大家。
好的。非常感谢这个来自 WaterGen 的对于他们产品和公司的这个介绍。那么今天呢，我们的这个KKL 的这个研讨会活动呢，就将告一段落了。那么接下来后续的话呢，如果大家有希望能够进一步的联系 KKL， 或者是今天参与演讲的公司的代表，都可以随时联系我们。屏幕上方呢有这个中国以色列商会的联系方式，包括了邮箱。此外呢，还可以关注商会的微信公众号，获取我们的最新的这个活动动态。那么与此同时呢，再提醒一下大家，因为我们现在组建了这个 KKL 中国之友的这个微信群，大家如果对于 KKL 有特别的兴趣，还有甚至包括希望后续能够进一步的沟通的话呢，欢迎大家通过这个加群的方式来跟我们取得联系。我们也会将大家的问题进行收集和反馈。那么在此希望就是能够通过本次的活动，使大家对于 KKL 有一个比较深入的了解。那么接下来也欢迎大家继续关注我们的活动。好的，本次活动到此结束，谢谢大家。
Bye, everybody.